Welcome back to the Philbrook Football Podcast, now with new and improved audio quality.
You can hear it already.
Yeah, you can even hear me when I talk like this into the mic, and it doesn't blow your ears out. So,
this is the ASMR Philbrook Football Podcast.
Yes,
for week 14.
Week 14. Okay, so Cameron, why don't you go ahead and do the recap of this last week here?
Yeah, let's just blow through them real quick so we can get to the good stuff. Thursday night, the Cowboys wasted on the Redskins 38-14. And then on Sunday, where all the actual games happened, the Vikings beat the Falcons 14-9. Ravens slaughtered the Lions 44-20. Patriots also wasted on the Bills 23-3. 49ers just barely edged out the Bears 15-14. Bucks lost to the Packers 20-26 in overtime. Colts lost 10-30 against the Jags. Broncos continued to be inept on offense. Lost 9-35 against the Dolphins.
That was bad.
Somehow. The Chiefs lost to the Jets 31-38. Texans lost to the Titans 13-24. Browns lost to the Chargers 10-19. But they did have a win this week, just not on the win-loss column. Oh, to be continued. Panthers lost to the Saints 31-21. Rams beat the Cardinals 32-16, excuse me. Giants lost to the Raiders 24-17. And the Eagles lost to the Seahawks 24-10. And then on Monday, the Steelers beat the Bengals 23-20. And that was that.
Yeah, so
that Monday game was ridiculous. Every Steelers and Bengals game is just like,
it's almost the same thing every time they play. It's
I love their games.
Yeah.
I think they're great. The drama's awesome.
I always think of like sitting at Red Robin eating burgers.
I know that
when
feeling.
I think of that because last year when it was like AJ McCarron, because Andy Dalton was injured or whatever, like AJ McCarron was starting, and maybe that wasn't last year, maybe it was like 2 years, I don't remember, but like
I'm pretty sure it was last year.
But either way, I just remember sitting there, I think maybe at your birthday, there was a Bengals Steelers game on, and I was just like watching Le'Veon Bell, but also watching AJ McCarron. I don't know. Either way, I feel like all their games just go the same way. Like Andy Dalton, like will score a touchdown pretty much every time they play. It's like first quarter, score a touchdown. You're like, okay, Bengals putting up a good fight. Yeah. And then like this last game, it's like, yeah, dude, like Andy Dalton throwing 2 touchdowns to AJ Green in the first half. Like, sweet 14-point lead. Here we go. And then the Steelers just did what they do. And
well, no, I feel like the Bengals did what they do.
Yeah, it's
they just shot themselves in the foot.
He said, if we win, it puts us lower in the draft. So let's just choke this away, but give them a good show.
And there's always like players that are like beating up on each other. And I mean, for example, obviously that massive hit by Juju Smith-Schuster on Vontae's Perfect. Man, like, I'm so torn because a part of me is like, that shouldn't be in football. Like, come on, player safety. But then there's a part of me that's like, well, it's Vontae's Perfect, and that guy's a piece of crap.
Well, and you know what? Like, in all reality, the hit wasn't even the biggest problem. Like, it was a kind of dirty hit, but like, it wasn't that bad. It was just kind of expanded because of the fact they just stood over him. It was basically just like, yeah, suck it. And then like everyone was like, ooh, but like really the hit itself, like it was just because it was so like blindsiding.
Right.
But
not even blindside. He hit him square in the chest. I mean, his helmet made contact with his face mask because of the back of his, just the angle it took. You know, I'm just going to come out and say that I loved that hit. I mean, I might get some flack for it, but I totally supported it. Vontae's Perfect is just he's such a piece of crap. He literally tries to like break people's ankles.
Yeah, he's Like, if anybody deserves that hit, it's definitely Vontaze Burfict.
And for a rookie to come out, and I mean, Vontaze Burfict's a big dude.
Yeah.
And so, like, for a rookie to come out and lay the wood on him and just stand over him, like, how you like that, man? I love seeing that hit. I watched that replay like 4 times just because it was, man, it was so awesome.
Yeah, I don't really necessarily, because of who it was, like, because of the fact that it was against Burfict, and again, it wasn't like he just like straight up helmet to helmet like concussioned him, like,
or like clotheslined him or something.
Like you can see him; he's leading with his shoulder. It's just the fact that Juju Smith-Schuster's so tall, like, his helmet connects with the face mask, but it's not this head to head collision, like, just destroy the guy, like, in this sense of like trying to like kill him, like,
right.
It's just like, he's not Ndamukong suing like into his nuts or anything. Like, he's just like doing this big old hit, like Cam Chancellor style, maybe a little bit.
I mean, it was more excessive. You wouldn't see Cam do that on that kind of play because, I mean, Burfict really wasn't in the play anyways. The play was going down the sideline, down the field, and Burfict's not like a super fast dude. He wasn't going to like catch up to the play. But yeah, I don't like condone those hits just like out of the blue for no reason. But I loved this hit just because of who it was on and who was doing it. Just the fact that it was like a rookie, and Schuster's going to be there for a few more years. He's going to play
at least.
Yeah, at least. And he's going to play Burfict, at least 6 more times.
Are you assuming that the Bengals will not make the playoffs?
I'm assuming that, yes. Their owner is like the most cheapskate. Their owner is the reason why Marvin Lewis is still their head coach, because he's like the cheapest mofo ever. He just like tries to find any way he can to save money. Yeah.
Why would we re-sign our offensive line? You don't need that.
Why would we re-sign Marvin Jones? I mean, he's not like another wide receiver number 1 or anything.
Why would we re-sign Marvin Jones when we could just not also re-sign Mohamed Sanu? Why don't we just not re-sign our offensive line and also our 2 other good receivers and just let AJ Green and Andy Dalton carry us? That's the Bengals approach.
Yeah, we'll just draft rookies and expect them to produce immediately. And if they don't, I'll just have Marvin Lewis throw the players under the bus. Dude, he's been throwing John Ross under the bus all year. It's been ridiculous. It's like kind of sad. But
John Ross got put in a pretty bad situation, and like he got hurt early on and then had like 1 fumble, and then it was like the end. Like,
yeah.
I'm like, what the heck, man? Like, you spent a 1st-round pick on the guy, and you're like, ooh, it's his fault. Like, hello.
That's what Marvin Lewis does, dude. He like hates his rookies, and he just like throws them under the bus. And he even pretty much threw him under the bus for this injury. He like said that he basically said that he was like trying to hide the injury so he could play. And it's like
pretty much every player does.
Yeah, exactly. But anyways, yeah, that game was just ridiculous. I mean, aside from the big hit that Schuster had, obviously everybody is concerned about Ryan Shazier. He had some spinal trauma that left him unable to move his lower body while he was on the field. It sounds like, just to give an update, it sounds like he's gotten feeling back, and he's been starting to be able to like move his toes and stuff.
Right. I heard that too.
He got surgery. So, but Ian Rappaport sent out something saying that he heard Shazier might not be able to play football again, which is fine. Like, as long as the dude can walk again someday and like play with his kids, that's all that matters. He's already made $13 million over his career. If he's been smart with it at all, he has some saved away, and he should be able to provide for himself the rest of his life. And I would expect
you'd hope so.
And I would expect Rooney and the rest of the Steelers organization to continue helping him throughout his life. Their organization is really top notch when it comes to stuff like that.
Right.
Establishing connections with players and making sure they're taken care of. So I would expect Rooney to find a way to keep him taken care of. And Ohio State is pretty much the same way. There's alumni programs all over the country for Ohio State. Right. So he should be well taken care of if he never plays football again. I mean, he could just get into promotional stuff, honestly. He could do whatever he wants. He's got all the money in the world now. So.
Yeah, I mean, he's a passionate player, so I'd assume he would do everything he could to come back to the game. But in the event that he can't, he certainly has many opportunities for his career. So.
Yeah. But it is good that he got the surgery he needed, and it sounds like he's getting healthier. So it's good to hear that he's at least being able to, move his feet and stuff like that.
Right.
So staying kind of in the AFC North, the Ravens lost their cornerback, Jimmy Smith, to an ACL tear.
Yeah.
Sounds like you probably know a little bit more about it than I do. So,
honestly, I don't. I believe it was an ACL. It's ACL or MCL. It's one of the two. But either way, he's out for the season. So, so he's done. And honestly, it makes a bigger impact than you'd really think, because you think about that Ravens defense, you're like, oh man, like that defense has been killer, and it's just been shutting teams down. But a lot of that comes from the fact that in order to have a defense that truly shuts teams down, you need corners that can play one-on-one with receivers consistently, and Jimmy Smith provided that for the Ravens. And without him, the rest of their cornerback depth is not nearly as good. So this is going to force them to, similarly to the Richard Sherman injury in Seattle, it's going to force them to rely on younger guys that aren't quite as proven. I believe they have Ladarius Webb at free safety right now because he wasn't quite as fast. He wasn't.
What happened to Weddle?
Weddle plays for... Oh, yeah, he does play for the Ravens. So maybe they have Webb at strong safety.
They have Tony Jefferson at strong safety.
Do they?
Yeah.
Are you sure Tony Jefferson doesn't play for the Cardinals?
He played for the Cardinals, and then the Ravens signed him.
Oh. I must have not.
You don't get to edit this out, fool.
Either way, Ladarius Webb isn't quite as good as he used to be.
No, he's not.
He... in fact, I remember watching him earlier this season get burned pretty hard. So
things are not looking good for the Ravens now.
No, at least not in the secondary. I mean, their front seven's still fine. Their run defense is still going to be great, except for when they play against Le'Veon Bell. So they should be fine. When you're relying so much on your defense, and Flacco only has to throw for like 180 yards and a pick to win the game, like...
Yeah, and they've been relying on their defense and their run game.
Right.
I mean, somehow Alex Collins is producing over there.
Because they have an offensive line. Well,
yeah. I mean, a better offensive line.
I shouldn't say they have one. They have a really good injured offensive line.
Right. Yeah, and they still haven't found a way to really utilize Danny Woodhead yet. It's been kind of disappointing to see, especially since Flacco is in the prime of his check down career. He should be.
Yeah, I mean, you'd think a guy that checked it down so many times to Buck Allen while Woodhead was out would be able to develop a quick chemistry with a guy that literally has done that for his entire career. Like, yeah, Woodhead has been check down supreme burrito for his entire career.
And he's been awesome at it.
Yeah, like
everywhere he went, the Jets, Pats, Chargers.
Him? Oh, God, it's just crazy.
Probably because the Ravens just suck.
At least offensively. Their offense is offensive. That's what I'll say.
Yeah, it is. It is an offense. There is that.
They're there on the field.
So we can stay in the same division today and talk about the win that the Browns had today.
Oh, yeah.
Or not today, but Sunday. They had the return of Josh Gordon. And he played really well. He got like 11 targets and hauled in, what was it, 8 of them?
4. But they were 4 really good catches.
Yeah, he had almost 100 yards.
Because here's the thing. He had 11 targets, and 4 of them were catches, and many of them were classic Kaiser overthrow nonsense. So realistically, he did pretty much as he could. In fact, he caught this one slant route for, I think, his first reception. It was for 9 yards. And it was on the first play of the game. And he caught this slant route that was behind him. And he like nonchalant, just like with his left hand, like brought it back and like secured it in his little arm pocket. And then just like took it for 9 yards. And it was just like so cool to see, like Josh Gordon, first play of the game, 9-yard slant route that was behind him. Like, okay, I'll take that.
Go figure.
He had this monster catch over Casey Hayward, like for 30 something yards. Like, it was awesome. And that defense has not given up more than 100 yards to anybody all year except for Odell Beckham Jr. So I'd say that's probably 4 for 85 in your first game in like 3 years, except for preseason 2016. I would say is pretty impressive.
And his first game playing ever sober, probably since like middle school.
We don't even know about that.
Yeah, and I don't know about that either. Yeah, there is. It's funny looking at some of the people talking, like being sarcastic, but they were like, "We've never seen him play sober before. What if he sucks when he's sober?" And like, it's funny, but yeah. Hopefully, he can develop a chemistry with Kaiser, if that's even possible. Kaiser's really bad, so I kind of, yeah. He'd be better off with Kessler thrown to him, I think. Kaiser, if
he had more receptions. That's for sure.
He would have more receptions, yes, but and he'd probably have some more opportunities to just take some to the house.
Yeah,
because he's great with the ball in space. Kaiser, if he has anything, it's like he has a decent deep ball actually.
Yeah,
he sucks in the intermediate. He's okay short passing, and then he's actually pretty good with deep balls. It's so weird because he just throws a couple of dimes every game that are like, wow, that was amazing placement.
Well, that's why he was drafted. Like, this is what people were saying. Like, he's not ready to start in the NFL, but there's a reason they were like, you should still draft him and develop him because he has capabilities, but they just threw him right in the fire because he had a couple good preseason games, and they're like, well, he's the future of this franchise.
They had to start him because he outplayed every other quarterback on the roster. I mean,
in preseason,
in preseason, and obviously in training camp too.
Right.
They had Osweiler and Kessler and Kevin Hogan.
Right.
And he outplayed all of them, which isn't ideal because ideally you would want to start one of those other guys and let Kaiser be on the bench.
Right.
Which is what Hugh Jackson, I think, wanted to do, but knew that Kaiser was probably their best option if they're going to win any games. And while they haven't won any games yet, they at least played the Titans pretty hard, and they've their defense is actually all right and would be serviceable if they had any sort of offense.
Yeah, their defense isn't really that bad.
No,
their secondary needs some work, but their run defense has been solid.
Their secondary is actually really good this year. I don't know if you've looked at the statistics, but they're like in the top 15 of pass defense. Their front seven is also pretty good too. However, that Myles Garrett injury kind of hampers things a little bit, or a lot, because he is their best player on the defensive line for sure.
Especially with both him and Jamie Collins out.
Yeah, for sure. Hopefully, Gordon coming back is obviously going to be good for their offense because it's going to take pressure off of Coleman. And while he did all of absolutely nothing last week, in the future, I'd expect this to be good for Coleman because when he's been on the field, he's been good.
Yeah.
He's had a couple of freak hand injuries that have kept him out of games, but when he's been on the field, he's actually looked really good. He has a lot of potential. So seeing him and Gordon together would be awesome for them. And it's weird because like on paper, their offense looks so good, or at least looks pretty good, other than the quarterback position. That's the only position that they're not good at. Other than that, like their offensive line is solid, especially if they had Joe Thomas.
Yeah,
and
help.
Crowell's not the greatest running back, but he's serviceable, and Duke Johnson's a great receiver out of the backfield. I mean, they're just, on paper, they look like a good offense, but Hugh Jackson just sucks.
Yeah, Hugh Jackson's not a great coach, and that quarterback guru stuff is nonsense. So really, I mean, he's getting another year with Cleveland. I mean, I never believe in just firing a coach week one or year one, like bring him in and then say, no, just kidding, this team's still bad. Like, you can't turn around an NFL football team as bad as the Browns in 1 year. So if you're going to have a coach, just give him at least 2 years, see if there's any improvement. But I don't believe in just like kicking him out like that.
They fired their GM today.
Yeah, which was needed because they like the amount of like garbage first round picks they've had has been atrocious. They have like 2 every year. And how many of them have turned into stars?
True. I feel like he's put together a decent roster, and the coaching is just terrible.
I mean,
honestly,
the coaching's bad.
Honestly, I think Hugh Jackson just sucks as a head coach. He's a pretty good offensive coordinator, I guess. But no, man, I don't know. I feel like the Browns are going to look back like 3 years from now when they're having winning seasons, and they're going to be like, Sashi died for this because he has like tried to set them up for success. Like, obviously, like, yes, they didn't take Wentz at number 2. However, there was a lot of doubt about whether he would be good or not.
Yeah.
And the Eagles sold the farm for him. I mean, they like gave up so much to get him. And there's no guarantee Wentz would have been good in that system anyways. Nobody's been good in that system.
Yeah. I mean, it's my issue is that when you have like 9 draft picks every year because people keep giving you tons of picks just to move up like a spot sometimes, like it's just baffling that you don't have any stars. How do you not have stars or any like really these like promising guys that like had a really good rookie year and like continued into the next year? Like their best player was Jamie Collins, who they got from the Patriots. After that, They got rid of Joe Hayden. I don't know why they would do that, but they got... No, dude, he does not suck.
Well, I mean, because they wanted to go younger, or at least go in a different direction. They wanted to move on from him.
Sure, but like, trade the guy. You have Joe Hayden. Trade him. Like, hello.
I'm sure they tried, and nobody wanted to trade for him because they all knew the same things that the Browns did, which is that he was getting up there in age, wasn't the same player that he was a few years ago. So I don't know, but either way, I mean, I think this is the longest we've ever talked about the Browns.
Well, really, the important takeaway is that Josh Gordon is officially back.
Yep, and
he is about to destroy the Packers for 200 yards.
I hope so. That'd be awesome.
I hope so too, because I am in the fantasy football playoffs. So I would love to see Josh Gordon just like tear it up.
Yeah, I mean, if he does, he's going to be on a lot of championship rosters, I think. Because really, the only people who like picked him up were probably people who had playoff hopes and wanted to, you know, get a guy who had like some big boom potential.
Right.
I don't know. As a Seahawks fan, I'd love to talk about them beating up on the Eagles. That was so satisfying to watch.
Yeah, I mean, moving on from this Josh Gordon destroying the Packers thing, how about the destruction that already happened with the them Seahawks and those Eagles not flying so high.
Yeah, I last week I said I was worried about them because, I mean, obviously, as a Seahawks fan, it totally makes sense to be worried about them. They're the best offense in the league.
Right.
And they have been just killing teams left and right. So, it's understandable. Maybe I'm just telling myself that. I don't know. But, I personally was very happily surprised that the Seahawks were able to play as well as they did against the Eagles. But like you said, I mean, the Eagles hadn't played anybody really that high of a caliber of opponent.
Yeah, I called this game last week.
Yeah.
I knew it, dude. Like, you were much more worried than I was. I was like, yes, but I am very confident that Seattle's going to show up. I mean, they're at home. Seattle doesn't lose at home. They've lost 2 games at home this year, and it's like, that's the most they're going to lose for the rest of the season. So don't give them home field advantage, because they're going to steamroll you. Because seriously, like, with how Seattle matched up against Philadelphia, my biggest concern was Nelson Aguilar, surprisingly, because I was not worried about Zach Ertz, because we have fast linebackers, at least in Bobby Wagner, who can actually keep up with the guy. And then you have big corners that if you want to put them on him, you can. Like, you could put a Shaquille Griffin on him, although he was busy shutting down Alshon Jeffrey all night. But,
which was awesome.
Which was sweet. But, you could even put Byron Maxwell on him, and, the matchups themselves worked in Seattle's favor, especially with the Eagles' issues at left tackle. Like, just throwing Frank Clark. That should be his name, dude. Flanking the quarterback. Anyways, putting him on that.
Flank him.
Yeah, put him on that left tackle, and you saw what happened, dude. He just kept destroying him. And, like, Carson Wentz still played a great game. He had over 300 passing yards, but the important part is getting in the end zone. And that's what he's been good at all year. Was he would have games where he had a game where he threw like less than 200 yards, but still had 3 touchdowns.
Yep. Those are my favorite kind of games.
Right. Which, those are always great. That's basically what Russell Wilson did. He had less than 250 and still had 3 touchdowns. Like, it was baller. But like, it was amazing to watch as a Seahawks fan, because you're like, man, you had so many questions going into that game. Like, is this rookie cornerback going to be able to match up against this like great veteran in Alshon Jeffrey, who's been a stud all year? And you have who's gonna, Zach Ertz has been like crazy all year too. Like, can Bobby Wagner step up to the plate and make the right reads? Like, there's so many questions. And then
they answered all of them.
Yeah. It was just like the Eagles had some miscues. Carson Wentz missed some big throws. He made a lot of them, but there was one that the announcers kept talking about, where they got Nelson Aguilar on this crossing route wide open, dude. He was like in an island, and Carson Wentz overthrew him. And it was like, dude, that play, I think, might have gotten in Carson Wentz's head. It was just like, okay, no, I can't be throwing plays like that. I need to be better. And I think because of that, he was so like hyper focused on just like not doing that he like, I don't know what it was, but like just the rest of the game, that Eagles offense, it didn't flow. It didn't feel like there was any real flow to that offense.
You're all about the FL words right now.
Yeah, dude.
Flow, flank, flow, whatever you're trying to say just a second ago.
Like, I feel like I should be selling Progressive insurance.
Flow, flank.
Yeah.
Do we flip any guys?
But seriously, it was that Eagles offense just couldn't find a good rhythm. And a lot of that came from the fact that all year they've been relying on the run game, and they couldn't establish a good run game that entire game, because the Seahawks front seven was really shutting them down. And I do think I think the play calling could have been a little better for the Eagles, because they really kept trying to do things that the cover 3 scheme works well against. So when you have a cover 3, you need to have short passes. You need to have more than just these in front of you options. You need a guy every now and then in the flat. You need running backs coming out of the backfield. And that's kind of that weakness that the Eagles have, where they have 2 running backs who are both runners. They're not as much receivers. Ajayi is probably the better receiver, but even then, he's more of that give me 20 carries running back. Your best pass catcher is that, like we talked about this last week, Corey Clement, and then you have Kenyon Barner behind him. So you don't have this like stud running back who can do both things, and that makes the play calling a little bit more predictable.
Well, yeah, the Seahawks have actually been running a lot of cover 1 this year,
right?
Just to keep, and that they probably did a lot of the same thing against the Eagles, because they had. I'm sure that their scheme was to have Shaq Griffin on Jeffrey, Maxwell on whoever the other guy was going to be, Aguilar or Torrey Smith or whoever. And
it wasn't Torrey Smith very often.
And then McDougald on Ertz, yeah. And just man-to-man, keep them in check, and they pretty much did. I mean, they do play. I mean, they mix in cover 1 with their main cover 3 base, but
and that's typically what you do in a cover 3 scheme. You mix in, because a lot of cover 3, especially in the system the Seahawks run, it's a lot of press cover 3. So they'll kind of press them, kind of shove them at the line, but then just retreat. And then it will throw off the play a little bit.
Yeah, it throws off the timing plays.
Yeah. And because of that, it's hard for the offensive coordinator, because they'll say, okay, they're in press formation. This is probably man-to-man, so I need to throw in like a slant route, get something quick, whatever. But then all of a sudden, you throw in that slant route and the corner just backs up, and all of a sudden you have a linebacker right there in front of the slant route. That's kind of where the plan is for them. So that's probably why you're seeing a lot of that cover 1, is because it fits in so well. I mean, it's like you can do that in Madden. Like that's what I do in Madden. I do cover 3, cover 1, or I do a lot of cover 2 man-to-man, because I just get a lot of good corners and just call it good. But like when I'm actually playing with a balanced roster, I do a lot of cover 3, cover 1. So it all just depends on your personnel and all of that. But I mean, that was why it was so hard for the Eagles to really get a flow going. They'd see one thing, audible, and then, oh, it's not that thing. Just kidding. Like,
yeah. See, I feel like this wasn't a case of them like underestimating the Seahawks. Like a lot of losses by big teams they underestimate their opponent. I think they may have overestimated the Seahawks and tried too hard. I think they tried too hard to like really game plan. I think they tried to get too many weird things put in there to like throw off the Seahawks or something.
Yeah.
Because if they had just executed like they had been doing the past 10 weeks, like they would have been fine. They would have put up more of a fight, but I just feel like I honestly kind of feel like they're scared of the Seahawks.
I think the crowd really did have something to do with it, though.
Well, for sure.
Like, you don't have that kind of crowd noise really anywhere else. So,
except maybe like Kansas City.
And even then, it's like they both just kind of compete with each other, you know? Like, it's like I remember back when it was like 2012, I think, where it was like Seattle broke the record for like decibel level, and then like Kansas City did the next year, and Seattle was like, no. Like,
yep. They did it later that year, actually. Yeah, same year they broke the record again.
So, like, but like, how many times did the Eagles play the Chiefs? Like, they played the Chiefs and lost this year. Like, So,
so you just go the way of the Falcons and pump some artificial crowd noise in there.
Yeah, there you go.
Then you can waste on the Eagles. You'll get a fine later, but whatever, you beat them. You still won your game.
Doesn't get revoked, so there you go.
Exactly. But yeah, it was awesome to see the Hawks beat the Eagles, silence some haters, and show why they're such a dominant force come December.
Yeah, December Seahawks are no joke and really. At this point, you don't consider them like, oh, they're gonna, they have a chance to get like the 1 seed or whatever, but like, they're only they're only 2 games behind the Vikings and the Eagles, who they just beat, and only 1 game behind the Saints and the Rams, who they play the Rams again. The Saints,
the Panthers.
The what?
The Panthers.
The Panthers they're tied with, but they would have the 5 seed over them because of strength of schedule. So, because the Panthers have a cupcake schedule. So
no, they don't. BS. Dude,
I'm just kidding.
The Panthers have the whole NFC South is just, except for the Buccaneers, of course, but they've just been wasting on each other.
Yeah.
And the Vikings have beat all of them except for the Panthers, who they play this week, and will hopefully
destroy.
I hope so. God, I need Diggs to just have
Isaiah bashes on the Panthers
constantly
every week.
Anyways, so yeah, okay. Well, that playoff picture is starting to make a little bit more sense. We're starting to see kind of the order of the seeding. There's only a couple of more games that are really going to decide specific seedings.
Yeah.
So these last few weeks should be awesome to watch.
Yeah, I really am just looking at the Rams and Seahawks game is going to be huge for the NFC.
Absolutely.
Because if the Seahawks win that game, if they win this week against Jacksonville, which is a possibility, it's a very real possibility, then if you can beat the Rams and go 2-0 against them, then if the Seahawks can tie the Rams by the end of the year, then they would get that higher seed, which would be sweet.
That would be awesome.
After the whole start to the season, that would be pretty sweet to see. So, but as far as, I would say that, the Saints and the Falcons game after this week is going to be huge, but like, okay, so we're recording this as the Saints and Falcons are playing on Thursday Night Football, and Matt Ryan currently has 3 interceptions. Okay.
Man.
And yet they're only 7 points behind. Because,
sorry, Dad.
Yeah. 0 points for Matt Ryan right now.
Oh, God.
But like, they're only 7 points behind. And because that Falcons defense is better than many people give it credit for, they're a very fast defense. So they can keep up with these guys like Kamara and Ingram and all these guys. Well,
yeah, Kamara's been shut down so far.
Yeah.
He has.
Well, he did get hurt though. I think that's.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, I think he had a head thing.
Probably going through concussion protocol right now then.
Yeah, he might be. I'm not sure. I just heard from a buddy of mine that he got hurt.
Before he got hurt, he only had a carry for 2 yards and 3 receptions for 25 yards.
Yep. I can confirm that it was a concussion. So,
and his catch was a 23-yard catch. So they only had 2 catches for 2 yards.
Right.
Other than that long one. Michael Thomas is killing it though.
Yeah. But either way, the point we're making here, or at least that I'm making, is that really that Rams and Seahawks game is really the biggest one left as far as the NFC goes. In the AFC, there's really not a lot of at the top, there's not a lot of competition. It's Patriots and Steelers. Those are going to be the 1 and 2 seeds. I don't see anyone else even getting close to competing. However, the Steelers and Patriots game in week, I think, when is that? Is that week 16?
Steelers and Pats?
Yeah, it's that.
It's next week.
Next week. So that game is going to be huge for those 2 teams, because whoever wins that game, which is probably going to be the Patriots, because Steelers don't historically do very well against Patriots, but assuming that they don't just choke it out, that's a huge game for them, because whoever wins that could probably win out the last 2 games and get that number 1 seed, which is huge.
Well, it's not that huge in the AFC. The AFC kind of sucks.
But it's huge for home field advantage. That's why it's huge. Sure.
They would be playing, if they got the number 1 seed as of right now, they'd be playing Baltimore, which would be easy enough for them. But we'll we'll see what happens with that playoff picture. I mean, the Chargers are right there at 6-6, and Kansas City is 6-6 right now. I mean, I honestly think the Chargers are probably going to overtake the Chiefs.
I mean, the Chiefs are like a bad 6-6 right now. So
yeah, they're pretty much like 0-6.
Although I will say this last game against the Jets, they should have won. Their defense just did nothing.
Yeah.
Like, it's like they just didn't even play. I mean, you're giving up 38 points to like two guys getting ready to retire, and Matt Forte and Josh McCown, who is the truth. And like these receivers, Robbie Anderson and Jermaine Kearse, like, come on. Like, this is not a bad Jets team. This is probably the best Jets team we've seen in the last like 3 years. But like,
when was Fitzpatrick there? That was the best.
That was 2014, 2015.
I thought that was 2015.
It's 2015 for sure. I think he was there for 2 years.
Yeah, that was awesome. That was good times.
Yeah, I mean, they weren't quite great, but
dude, like, what's up with freaking Todd Bowles getting the most out of these like old ass quarterbacks?
Well, Josh McCown awesome. Was never a terrible quarterback, so
that is completely false. He was a terrible quarterback until he left the league because he was getting no job offers, and then Cutler went down and they brought him in with Mark Trestman, and then he started playing really good, and now all of a sudden he's like playing awesome. But he was never a good quarterback before that.
But he wasn't like bad before that. He was early in his career, sure, but like,
yeah,
his last, I mean, even when he was with the Browns, which was, I mean, that team was awful. Those Browns teams were absolute dumpster fire trash. And like, he still played all right. He would just get injured. It was pretty much every time he
turned into a helicopter.
Yeah, or turn into a helicopter.
I'm not going to let anybody forget about that. That was the best moment in Browns history. But other than, I guess, yesterday.
But
or
like
last week, yeah.
The point is, the Jets have looked pretty good this year, so it's not like this huge surprise that they beat the Kansas City Chiefs, but the Chiefs have way too much talent to lose to the Jets. Like, they just have you have a guy in Tyreek Hill, you have Alex Smith won the like FedEx Air Player of the Week. He threw for 366 yards, 4 touchdowns. The dude was playing lights out, but that defense did nothing. It was so sad to watch.
That defense is getting exploited, man. It's like teams figured out, okay, it's going to be really hard to stop their offense, but it's going to be pretty easy to move the ball down the field. So as long as we execute on offense, their teams are figuring that out. And it sucks, man, because I would have loved to have seen Kansas City go on the trajectory they were going after week 5, man. That was good times.
Yeah, they need a win this week to reestablish themselves in any shape or form, because if not, the Chargers are just going to take over and it's going to be done.
Yeah, and I mean, the top 3 teams in the AFC West are all 6-6, so that division is pretty much wide open.
Yep.
However,
except for the Broncos.
Right. However, I mean, out of the 3, the Chargers have looked the best over the last few weeks.
Yeah.
They've looked really good. Their resurgence has been awesome to see. Keenan Allen has been just tearing apart teams like Swiss cheese. It's just ridiculous, man. Do we want to go over our predictions for next week?
Sure. Yeah. Let's get going with that.
Well, since we're Hawks fans, let's just go straight into the Hawks and Jaguars game. Right now, ESPN has them has Jacksonville winning by 2.5 points.
Really?
Yeah, it says Jacksonville by 2.5. I understand because, I mean, the defense for the Jags is insane.
Yeah, I mean,
and
their defense is insane.
Calais Campbell is like always giving the Seahawks fits,
right?
While he was in Arizona, now he's in Jacksonville, and is playing like a defensive player of the year candidate, and
right behind Bobby Wagner.
Right. Both defenses are just gonna feast this week. It's gonna be. I swear, it's gonna be a game like 7-3 or some crap like that. Like,
I don't think it's going to be 7-3. I honestly and truly believe that if any quarterback is going to be able to find success against the Jaguars, it's going to be Russell Wilson, because he is so hard to plan around. It's the Jaguars, but on the flip side, if any team is going to shut down Russell Wilson, it's going to be the Jaguars.
Yeah, for sure.
So so much of this is going to come down to is one-on-one matchups. It's going to be how well can the Seahawks receivers get off of the line of scrimmage and find some open space.
Unfortunately, finish.
Well, I was just going to say, because Russell Wilson will find them. And as far as pass protection goes, Seattle's offensive line has been better at that. It's really been...
They've been great since we got Dwayne Brown.
Right.
They've been climbing up the rankings into the top 10 pass protection now.
Yeah. It's just the run protection that's not as good. But the Jaguars can be ran against because they're such a pass rush, stop the pass team. You can run against them. They've been more stingy as of late, but they haven't been playing like the greatest teams of late.
Well,
so
I mean, nobody's stacking the box against Seattle right now anyways.
Exactly.
Nobody's afraid of the run game. Yeah, sure, Jacksonville might be exploitable in the run game. That might be their only weakness on defense, but it's our biggest weakness on offense. And I don't see us somehow finding a rhythm in our run game. I mean, I don't know, man. But unfortunately, Seattle offensively does not match up at all. I think the only matchup we have that might be in our favor is Jimmy Graham versus whichever linebacker he's on, or whichever safety he's on. But Jalen Ramsey is gonna probably follow Doug Baldwin wherever he goes.
Well, I will say that Doug Baldwin plays a lot in the slot, and Jalen Ramsey typically stays on the outside. So
that's true.
He will move around on the outside, but not go into the slot as much.
However, when they played the Cardinals just a few weeks ago, Larry Fitz always plays in the slot, and they had Jalen Ramsey on him 65% of the time. He followed him into the slot, and I would expect him to do much of the same.
But think about the fact that the Cardinals, sorry to interrupt you, but the Cardinals just almost beat the Jaguars.
Right.
Wait, didn't they beat the Jaguars?
No.
Wasn't that the one where Phil Dawson had the career long kick to win the game?
Oh, yeah.
So
sure, but I'm
Blaine Gabbert did it.
I'm talking about and Larry Fitzgerald didn't do anything against the Jaguars. He had 3 receptions for 20 yards. Yes. I'm positive.
Well, either way, score update while Cameron's double checking his facts. Score update: Falcons just tied the game 17-17 somehow. I don't even know how are they doing that. They only passed it to Mohamed Sanu, destroying every fantasy hopes and dreams for Julio Jones owners. 3 interceptions and they're still somehow tied in this game. It's baffling. I guess Kamara really was the X factor. Either way.
Yeah, so Larry Fitzgerald had 3 receptions for 12 yards in that game on 8 targets. Their best receiver that day was Ricky Seals-Jones, who had 4 for 72 and a touchdown. So good news is tight ends do well against Jacksonville, apparently. Bad news is that receivers don't do anything against Jacksonville. Jalen Ramsey definitely wins the matchup against Doug Baldwin, and Bouye is going to win his matchup against Lockett or Richardson or whoever wide receiver we put out there.
I mean, we'll see what happens.
I'm talking on paper. On paper, Bouye wins against either of those matchups just because he's been playing lights out too. So I don't know. I doubted the Seahawks last week, but to be fair, I did pick them to win because I didn't feel comfortable not picking them to win as a Seahawks fan. So I'm going to pick the Hawks again because I think that Russell Wilson's ability to scramble is going to throw off that defense just enough to allow some people to get open here and there. If Russell Wilson can just keep his eyes down the whole field and really, really exploit his ability to extend those plays, then they'll be able to move the ball and win the game. The defense just needs to show up and stop Fournette, which they've been shutting down run games all year. So I'm really not that worried
Carlos
about
Hyde was the only one that had, I think, over 100 yards. And that so much of that came on one 70-yard rush. So
yeah, I would expect the Seahawks to be able to shut down that run game and then force the Jaguars to make Bortles throw.
Oh no.
Yeah, oh no. If they can play to the same level they were playing last week against the Eagles, they'll be just fine. I mean, both teams are 8-4 right now, both looking to get into the playoffs and get a higher seed. I think it's more important for, well, actually, I guess it's important for both teams because they both have teams within their division that are really pushing them.
Yep.
Tennessee and Jacksonville have the same record. The Rams, do they have the same record?
They are 1 game ahead of Seattle.
1 game ahead of Seattle. So this is a big game for Seattle. They need to win this game to stay caught up with the Rams. But then the Jags also don't want to lose a game and fall a game behind the Titans. So
yeah,
we'll see what happens. But I'm going to pick Seattle. I'm going to guess the final score is 17-7 for the Seahawks.
I'm going to say Seattle will also win, but I think Seattle will score 20 points and the Jaguars will score 7.
You're like that guy on The Price is Right who's like, oh, I'm going to guess $1,000. And then you're like, 1,001. And you look around and everybody goes,
what are you trying to say?
I'm trying to say you're a douche.
Oh, all right. Fair enough.
So we got to get this wrapped up. So let's go through this really quick. Colts versus the Bills. Who do you have?
Well, with Tyrod out, probably the Colts.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
I don't trust Peterman at all after his terrible performance.
He was playing like one of the best secondaries.
Sure, but he's Peterman.
Yeah. Colts just have a terrible defense. I don't know. I'm going to pick the Bills just because LaShawn McCoy is going to take enough pressure off Peterman that he's going to be able to complete some passes and hopefully get him a couple field goal range a couple times or something.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll both pick Bills. I wouldn't be surprised if the Colts upset them, though.
Yeah, I just don't care who wins this game, so whatever.
Neither teams I have any allegiance to. Vikings and Panthers. I know who you're going to take. I'm going to take the same team. I think the Vikings are going to be able to shut down the Panthers' only real weapons. Funches is going to be going against...
Roads are going to be closed.
Oh, yeah.
Funches.
Funches isn't going to be able to do anything. Panthers have no one outside of him and McCaffrey's going to be swallowed whole by Kendricks and Barr.
Yeah.
And then Linval Joseph is just going to freaking...
That entire D line is
Cam Newton for breakfast. Without any milk. Okay.
Without any milk.
Bears versus the Bengals. I'm personally going to pick the Bears.
No one cares. I'm just going to take the Bengals because AJ Green. Done.
I like the Bears way better than the Bengals.
I don't.
I hate the Bengals.
Trubisky's terrible. Moving on.
Trubisky's terrible. I didn't say I like them as in like, oh, I feel more confident with them. I just like the Bears better.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying.
Like personally like them better.
How do you like the Bears talent-wise more?
No. Packers versus Browns. Obviously,
Browns.
Picking the
Browns.
Okay, we'll see. If they're going to win one game this year, it could be this game.
Look, Josh Gordon is back.
Thunder and lightning.
Yeah, I paused for the sound effects.
Nice.
Josh Gordon's back, eating them alive. Packers still have Brett Hundley at quarterback. Now that I'm thinking about it, Browns are still 0-12 and terrible, so maybe they don't win, but who knows, dude? This might be the game where Kaiser does it. Whatever. I still really don't care, but if the Packers lose, then they're probably out of the playoffs, which is great. So,
moving on. So 49ers versus the Texans.
Probably the Texans, I guess.
Really?
Well,
I'm going to pick the Niners.
I forget that Garoppolo's starting, so yeah, I'd probably say the Niners too.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Niners. Texans, I think this is going to be kind of a shootout in the sense that there's going to be a lot more points scored than you'd think between two teams that are bad. The Texans are just missing a lot of guys on, I mean, all across the board, obviously.
Right.
But they're missing a lot on defense for sure. And the 49ers offense has looked decent all season,
right?
Even with Beathard. And their defense is just not very good.
Right.
So if Savage can put up the performance that he did, what was that this week?
Yeah, against Tennessee.
Against Tennessee. If he can do something similar with that, get DeAndre Hopkins going and get, I guess Will Fuller is supposed to come back this week or is questionable to come back. If they can get him, at least utilize him at all, then they'll probably be able to score some points. But I think the Niners are going to take this one.
Yeah, I am going to pick the Niners.
Raiders and Chiefs in an important divisional game between two teams that are 6-6 and looking for a win within the division.
You know, this one's a little bit harder for me, but if I'm being honest, I'm going to pick the Chiefs. Even though they have been slumping, their offense really picked it up against the Jets, and the Oakland defense isn't good. And I don't know. It's hard because the Chiefs, I don't think are going to have Marcus Peters for this game.
No, they already suspended him.
Right. So Michael Crabtree's back from his suspension. So like they have some favorable matchup. It's just that I don't know. It's hard to say. I'm
going to pick the Chiefs too. If it makes you feel any better.
Yeah.
Even though they've struggled on offense, they've at least shown more consistency on offense than Oakland, who seems to be like good on offense one week and then the next week they completely like crap themselves.
And good feels like an overstatement. I swear I don't understand that offense. It's just like,
yeah, it's weird.
I just don't get it. I'm like, you have Marshawn Lynch will put up like 40 yards on like 10 carries and then they won't run the ball anymore.
Yeah.
And it's like still a close game and they're just gonna be like, okay, let's keep deaking and dunking with Derek Carr. And it's like, what are you doing? Like,
yeah,
do something.
They need to push the ball down the field.
Yeah. Like that's how they were so successful last year. They were pushing it down the field. They were putting the pressure on there. And like now it's just this weird, I don't know what even to think of it.
I don't even know what they're trying to do on offense, but hasn't been working. So, what? Dude, I wish I was at Arrowhead Stadium. It says 4,795 tickets available from $31. Dude, $31
for $30.
$30. Any Seattle game, the lowest ticket price is like $120. Yep. I'm like, wow, you guys, Jesus Christ.
Good.
Anyways, so Chiefs. Lions versus the Buccaneers. I'm going to pick the Lions.
Okay, well, here's what I'm going to say. If Matt Stafford plays after like having that like nerve bruise thing in his right hand, if he plays, yes, I will take the Lions. If he does not play,
He gonna play, Skip. Last year he played in their playoff game with a like broken finger. Remember, he didn't play very good.
Finger. It's much different than a broken, like a bruised hand, like that got like stepped on by like 200+ pound dude.
Either way, I'd pick a hobbled Matthew Stafford led Lions over the Bucs any day of the week. So.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how good their rookie quarterback backup is. So
Ruddock.
Yeah, but I'm
not very.
I don't know. I'll say the Lions too, just because I don't know. They'll figure it out. Buccaneers are just really, really bad.
Yeah, they suck. Cowboys versus the Giants. I'm gonna pick the Cowboys on this one. Or Eli Manning could come out because he's supposed to start this week after being benched last week for seemingly no reason, or just as an excuse to fire McAdoo.
Getting fired AF.
But yeah, but I'm going to pick the Cowboys just because the Giants have just been so terrible. As bad as the Cowboys have been, the Giants have been twice as bad. I'm personally going to pick the Cowboys. However, like I've said before, I'm not going to be surprised if they lose.
I'm going to take the Giants.
Okay.
I think Eli Manning's going to come out and he's going to have himself a solid game and trying to show like, okay, I'm the starter. This is the Cowboys. I'm going to beat the Cowboys and show you why I never deserve to be benched in the first place. So
Titans versus Cardinals. I'm going to pick the Titans.
Although it should be probably a better game than people may give it credit for, but
yeah,
Titans have been stingy against the run, and Cardinals are kind of having to rely on the run. And
Larry Fitzgerald's going to feast.
Hopefully.
Oh my God.
Either way, it should be a good game. Blaine Gabbert's not a bad quarterback, so could go either way, I guess. But
that's like the nicest thing anybody's ever said about Blaine Gabbert. He's not a bad quarterback.
Yeah. Well, I have more faith in him than I think many other people do. But either way, Titans are the better team. They should win this game.
Jets versus the Broncos. I'm going to pick the Jets.
Jets easily.
Redskins versus Chargers. I'm going to pick the Chargers. Eagles versus Rams. That's going to be a tough one. This is another tough matchup for the Eagles. I think they're going to learn their lesson, though. I think they're going to play the Rams really hard.
I think the Eagles win this game.
I could see them definitely winning this game.
I think the front seven's going to be annoyed because of after not getting to Russell Wilson enough, they're going to be like, no. We are like legit front seven supreme burrito. So like we're going to go out and...
You and your supreme burrito.
Supreme burrito. I think that's the second time I've said it in the podcast.
It is. It's a burrito supreme.
It's a chicken supreme. I think they're going to come out and really play the Rams tough, and I like how they match up against the Rams receivers. I like Malcolm Jenkins back there for those deep passes that Goff throws every game. I don't think the Eagles are dropping 2 in a row to the NFC West. So
nope, I would agree with you. Definitely going to be hard on Jared Goff as well, because this is going to be a game that he's going to have to not just stand there in the pocket. He has to find a way to get out of the pocket.
Right. And he beat a Saints team that didn't have their 2 starting corners. So
although this is going to be a great game.
Yeah.
Watching Jared Goff, the number 1 pick, versus Carson Wentz. Is this the new Peyton Manning versus Tom Brady? Okay. Oh jeez.
You're so like, is this gonna be the new Peyton Manning? Just no. Move on.
Okay. Steelers versus the Ravens. Steelers.
Yeah. Come on.
And then on Monday night, the Patriots versus the Dolphins. Ooh man. I don't know. I'd be.
Did you really just say, oh man?
I don't know, man. I mean, they only have New England favored by 11.5 points.
I love how we brushed over 2 basically playoff teams and the Steelers and Ravens, like Steelers done. And it's
well, do we really think? Okay, really quick, let's go over it. Jimmy Smith is out, and Antonio Brown is one of the greatest receivers of all time. There you go. There's your analysis. And then Patriots versus Dolphins. The Patriots are the Patriots, and the Dolphins are the Dolphins. I mean, come on now.
Jay Cutler is going to throw for 800 yards.
Oh God! Set records. Make everybody question everything. Implode the universe. Sorry, we had to just kind of like brush over those. We have some other engagements that we got to tend to. So we're going to get going now. Thanks for watching this week. We appreciate everybody who's taking the time to watch or listen to our shenanigans. And
I hope you enjoyed the better audio.
Oh yeah, the audio is great this week. It's going to be, I'm really excited to listen to this.
Yeah, I'm going to soup it up.
Soup it.
I'm going to soup it.
I heard you like good audio on your audio, so I added good audio to your audio. Oh, thanks, Exhibit. You pimped my audio. Anyways.
Skip. I'm going to soup your skip.
Anyways, all the skips out there, thanks for listening to the Philbrook Football Podcast.
That's copyrighted. So, thank you for listening to the Philbrook Football Podcast.